It's 1 o'clock. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Robert Walsh. More like good afternoon, I guess. The Astros defeated the Mariners 4-2 to take a 2-0 lead in their best-of-5 ALDS series. 3 games tonight. You got the Guardians, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Braves and Phillies. Their first pitch is at 3:37 with the series tied at 1. In the NFL, the Washington Commanders snapped their 4-game losing streak by defeating the Chicago Bears 12-7 on Thursday Night Football. And finally, coming up this weekend, I know Vols fans must feel like it's an eternity, but it is almost here. You guys, Vols, Bama, 2:30 tomorrow. We got you covered with a special edition of the Tennessee Tailgate Show with the morning show crew and the rightful game day picker, Ron Slay, from 11 to 12:30 live from the 21st Mortgage Plaza. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5, The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Happy Friday to everybody. Let's just say this. Lucas Panzica holding the station hostage continues. 104.5 The Zone held hostage by Lucas Panzica. He will now do this show with me. Blaine Bishop getting another day of well-deserved R&R. Meanwhile, Lucas is doing his 37th shift of the week. You've done a women's soccer match. You've done multiple show hits. You've done Buck's show. You'll do this show. You have a high school game tonight. Do we need to get you some tea with lemon or anything to carry your voice through this next couple hours?
I've got a lot of dirt on a lot of people, Mickey.
Oh, man.
We're at Portland High School tonight. Looking forward to that. They're hosting Station Camp. But this has been easy. This week has been easy. This week just comes to you when doing this type of job, when it's Alabama and it's Tennessee and a top 6 matchup and everybody joining the conversation. So, piece of cake.
I told Lucas something about myself. I don't think you knew this. I'm not proud of it. I'm really kind of ashamed. But right as we were about to come on, the music was playing. By the way, hats off to our guy, Robert. This station has so many talented people, and some people's voices you hear more than others. But like Robert, you've been killing it all day on the updates, man. I enjoyed seeing the Predators game with you last night. But like there are so many people walking the halls in the station who could do all of these shows, and he could do everything. Lucas, Robert, and there are just so many talented people. So tip of the cap to both of you guys for just killing it today.
You're the man, and I appreciate you being my encyclopedia last night as I am a hockey novice. I asked Mickey everything from, what the hell is that cat in the ceiling, to what is icing? He told me everything from icing to hooking. He answered all my questions, didn't make me feel dumb, at least not until he got back in the car on the way home. So I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun last night, Mick.
There were a bunch of people who are big hockey people in town, and some work at other stations and write blogs and all sorts of stuff, who are all really good to me. Like I would go to Predators games and I would ask people like Christopher Martell or Justin Bradford or all these different guys, like, okay, tell me what just happened. And they would just tell me. Okay, here's what happened. Sometimes they call it. They were great. So what little teeny tiny bit of hockey stuff that I understand, I was happy to share with you and enjoy at the game.
Not a great night in Smashville.
It was not a great night. I know they traveled a lot already, and you know their season has started differently than other NHL clubs. But anytime you start out flat at home like that, it literally looked like the Stars had an extra gear at times, where guys were just going around Predators. So hopefully they can get rested up and make a game of it. I guess they go to Dallas next. They turn around and it's one of those home and homes.
Yeah.
I do believe they have Dallas next. But it was still fun. Great atmosphere. They killed it as always. Full crowd, full house. Everybody's fired up. They just didn't give them a whole lot to cheer about. Like I said, I did give Lucas this thing about me. You were talking about Buck. I said, so Buck was at the hockey game? I thought he was out of town, but he was here to jinx the Preds again. And you said, oh, no, Buck, even when he goes on vacation, he comes back early. He's not a good relaxer. I'm a terrible relaxer. Like Don Davenport has told me, like, man, you're terrible at relaxing. We used to work together, and we'd go places, and I'd be like, I'm going to go and walk 6 miles, or I'm going to, I can't, I don't want to sit around. If you told me you could spend a day sitting by a pool anywhere or a day working in my yard, 100 out of 100 times, I would say I'd rather just work in my yard. I would rather mow the yard, rake the yard, pick up rocks that I continue to find in my yard from the previous owner who just put rocks everywhere. 8 years in, still haven't gotten them all. I would rather work in my yard than sit by a pool. You said you're a good relaxer. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, that I cannot relate to. Sometimes it takes a while to unplug. It's like a 24-hour buffer for me to finally be able to hit that point. But I think that I can get into each mode. And once I am in that mode, I can totally sink into it. Like whether it's like, going 100% like this week, shows every day, couple games this week, talking Tennessee, Alabama, high school game tonight, had some Western Kentucky game broadcast yesterday. But by Sunday, I will be in Puerto Rico, Titans bye week, had this trip planned for a while, and I will be fully unplugged until I get back next Friday, and then it's diving right back in.
I feel like the older I get, though, it's harder to relax because when I do finally get to relax, it's me just laying down on my bed naked looking at my phone. And then I feel embarrassed because I'm like, one, put some clothes on, your windows are wide open. What are you doing? And two, you've wasted your whole day, dude, just looking at your phone. And I feel like I need to be
well, that's not relaxing. No. Now you're confusing relaxing with sitting on your bed and looking at your phone. That's not relaxing.
Well, teach me. How do I become how do I relax? What do I need to do?
You throw this thing across the room.
First, look.
You throw it. Yep. He just threw his phone.
I'm not even on stream. You couldn't even see it.
At least he has clothes on.
You get rid of your phone.
You can put yourself on the stream. It's fine. Welcome in.
You plummet that screen time. Like that thing needs to shoot down like 35 percentage points for you to be able to appropriately relax. And that is the thing when you bring up Buck being in town on his days off. That is the thing that he is completely incapable of doing. And I am trying to be better about that. I have gotten worse about that. But that is how I am able to relax, by making that little notification that you get every week. Your screen time was 4 hours, 30 minutes on average this week. Trying to make that go down by quite a few percentage points.
Could you guys just go to anywhere? Beautiful. You name the place. Beautiful, tropical, any place. Could you go? Like you're going somewhere. Could you go and just sit by the beach for 5 days and do nothing?
I could. I like to go around and hike and find stuff to do and check out restaurants and walk around.
That's something, though. You're doing something.
No.
I could do that.
Well, the hiking and looking
nothing?
around.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sit anywhere for a day, much less 5. That sounds like torture to me. And plus, I'm clear, so I can't be in the sun all day. I mean, I have to be under a giant umbrella or wear full clothes or SPF.
You don't enjoy
78,000.
You don't enjoy just thinking about nothing?
No, I can't. I can't sleep at night. I can't turn my brain off. I've had that problem my whole life. And I grew up in rural Arkansas. I had nothing to think about. There's nothing going on. I thought about nothing so much I couldn't sleep.
There probably is a certain talent to that, like a certain ability to just
shut it off. I wish I could.
I like this. This is kind of like a therapy session. I did not imagine we were going to get introspective.
Next week might be a lot more therapy next week.
Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take Vols fans off of what's ahead, and here's why. Here's why I say that. I've lived in Tennessee now, if you add it all up, for 21 years of my years. And when I first got here, I literally moved here, Lucas, in 1997. So think about the apex of Vol living that we were experiencing at that time. So literally in 98, they win the national championship. So I'm thinking, gosh, they never don't contend or win the national championship. Then we see what happens all these years. And what's 15 years straight of losing to Nick Saban in Alabama. Now, I know Tennessee fans love to beat Georgia, and they love to beat Florida, and they love to beat Alabama. And depending on your age, I think you want to beat one of those teams more than
another.
And typically for most people, it's Florida or Alabama. It seems like even more than Georgia. Like everybody wants to beat Georgia the same amount, but either Florida or Alabama is who you hate the most if you're a Vols fan. Depending on your age, it feels like to me.
Yeah, age and other circumstances, like me growing up in Birmingham, has a huge impact on the teams that I wanted to beat the most year in and year out. And I didn't have a lot of success with that.
Here's the thing, and this goes back to the ability to relax or to just turn your mind off or just enjoy the moment. That's kind of why I wanted to get into that. Because I've talked to so many, like I was walking in my neighborhood this morning. I try to get up and, get a couple, 3 miles or so that I walk every day. Past the same couple that I've seen a bunch of times, they were walking their dog. They have the coolest dog ever. They had on all orange. I've never seen them wear Vols stuff. I didn't know they were Vols. They seem to be just fully enjoying the moment. But I know a lot of people who are so nervous or just so like, I mean, how are we going to beat it? Not everybody, but I know a lot of people who aren't even enjoying this because they just feel like it doesn't matter. When the game's over Saturday, it'll be 16 in a row. Sports is such a funny thing because It can give you the highest of highs. It can give you the lowest of lows. There are things that happen every week in sports that you think Disney could write that as a movie and no one would believe it happened. All the time things like that happen. Weekly in sports. Somewhere, somehow, high school, college. There are just amazing storylines that happen every week. But sports people, sports fans, super fans, fanatics seem to have the hardest time maybe disconnecting a bad part of something and just saying that has nothing to do with what's going to happen, in this case, tomorrow. There are so many people who are so worried that it might not work out. Man, here's what you need to do. Buy what you like to eat and what you like to drink and call everybody you know that cares about this same thing. And if you can't go to the game, then put up orange stuff all over your house and have the day of your life. Game day's there. What's the SEC game day called?
SEC Nation's there.
It's all there. They're all
everything's there.
They drove there in one car. Everything is there. If you can go, go. Just go. Like I know Cardinals fans, when the Cardinals I know how things ended. I know people who just drove to St. Louis to be there after a World Series game. And I've heard stories of people finding their way into the stadium at some point. I'm not saying that can happen. But regardless of what the outcome is going to be, and we're going to have a whole show to talk about this today, just drink it all in. This is what you've been wanting. You've been wanting to be relevant, and not just relevant, you're a top 10 team. And you went to LSU and just kicked the crap out of them. And I know it's not, Nick Saban's LSU, but still LSU. Still an impossible place to go and play and win like they won. So they're a legitimate top 10. They have a Heisman candidate quarterback. And even though, gosh, Cedric Tillman, well, the other dudes have played out of their minds. You got Brew McCoy. Your defensive front gets after people. Just drink it all in. Just mix up a big batch of orange Kool-Aid and just swill it down and just take this in. You wanted these moments. And I heard you talking about this earlier. You've had some brilliant points this week. Heupel's just different. The thing about Butch Jones where there were rocks on the sidewalk. Get out here and get these rocks. What if someone comes to visit? He doesn't give a crap about rocks. He thinks he can go, as Buck would say, kick rocks. You got a dude who is just like, we're just going to do what we do. We're just going to do what we do. You found a guy. You found an AD. Things are going well. You have the right people seemingly making all the right decisions. Just enjoy it. This is what you wanted, right? Am I wrong about that?
You're not wrong.
You can't be so uptight that you don't enjoy this.
But that is some of the BVS, the battered Vols syndrome, coming into play.
Syndrome.
You learn a little bit about people emotionally on how they deal with these type of things. That they're afraid to build themselves up in that way because they brace themselves for what might happen. Well, if I don't have that hope, then it won't hurt as bad.
Yeah.
And then other people are a little more reckless with those type of emotions, that they build themselves all the way up, and then if we don't beat Alabama by 3 scores on Saturday, then it's going to be just a train wreck. So you learn a lot about people and how they lead themselves into this game. I've tried to be very cautious and wary about it. Like I've tried to keep things level-headed because I have people around me in my ear. I have friends, people I went to school with, my roommate, why aren't you all in on this? Why aren't you talking about we're going to win by 3 scores and we're going to blow out Alabama and be 6-0 and we're going to go to the SEC? Like, why aren't you there? So I can't be there. I have to be here. I have to be level. Right? And then maybe at kickoff I will be, because once kickoff comes around, you have that freedom to just let loose. You can have whatever fantasies you want about what's going to happen in that game, but it has to come back down for us to rationally talk about it the following week, because it doesn't do anybody any favors for me to be here screaming about whatever fantasies Tennessee fans have about what's going to happen on Saturday.
It was the great rock and roll poet Aldo Nova who said, life is just a fantasy. So enjoy the fantasy, Vols fans. Tyler in the Zone TV chat. As a Vols fan, I think it's dumb to be nervous or anything. Before this season started, the goal was to take the next step and beat Florida. This is all just extra awesome. It'd be so cool to win. He said, but not winning doesn't take anything away from what Josh Heupel is doing in Knoxville. I agree with that. I don't want to see fans going nuclear if we do lose. That's Tyler. All right, Jimmy Himes is going to join us in 15 minutes. So Greg is on the line. Joey is on the line. We will take phone calls all day today. We only have Himes for about 10 minutes. Other than that, it is your show. It is our show. We would love to talk to you. 615-737-1045 on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. I would even like to hear from some Alabama fans. Do things feel different to you because of the start by the Vols, because of Josh Heupel, because of Hendon Hooker? Do you feel any different, or does it feel like business as usual? I would like to hear from both sides. It is Blaine and Mickey, Lucas Panzica hanging out for Blaine today. Our man Bert hanging out for Lucas today. Stick around. So, one of the great mysteries in life is not doing something to stop something that you don't want to happen. Let's just say if you were in your driveway and you had a hole in your tire, would you just sit there and watch all the air leak out and do nothing about it? No, you'd probably try to race to the gas station, right? Probably try to get it patched, fixed, whatever you needed to do. If your house was on fire, would you grab the garden hose or would you just sit there and watch it burn? You'd probably grab the hose, wouldn't you? But when it comes to hair loss, men, women, most people just don't do anything. That's baffling. The hat doesn't fix it. Getting your hair buzzed, guys, that doesn't fix it. Ladies, being creative with how you style your hair, none of that fixes it. PAI, that's the place where they fix it. They help men and women who are dealing with hair loss, and they've been doing it for forever. People from all over come all the way here to Middle Tennessee just to go to the hair wizards at PAI. So whether you just started losing your hair, they can help you keep everything you've got and get back what you've lost. Maybe you lost it all long ago and you'd like to get it all back. Well, guess what? They can do that too. Go to WeGrowHair.com. That's the website, or call them 615-376-6010. Call PAI today. The only thing you'll regret is that you didn't do it sooner. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. Heard this show last night at the song at the Preds game. Look at my man Burt with his musical recall. Jimmy Himes of the show called Sports Talk, which is the greatest name ever for a sports talk show. He'll join us right around 1:20 today. So we'll talk to Jimmy, get the latest. What does he know about? Well, everything. We'll just ask him everything. All the questions that we can in the 10 minutes or so we have allotted. In the meantime, and in between time, yes, there's a Blaine and Mickey-ism for you. Take some phone calls on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. We are, a little more than 24 hours out from Tennessee and Alabama with game day and SEC Nation and everybody and their brother going to be there and an orange out on the field. And I got to rabbit holing down a bunch of Tennessee and Alabama videos last night. I like the Vols in all orange, even with the orange pants. Lucas, I know you're a fan of everybody just wears their color.
Why can't we do that?
UCLA and USC do that now. They did, and then they didn't, and now they do again.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
It looks awesome.
Color on color.
That contrast of the Bama crimson and the Tennessee orange on the same field.
Yep.
Man.
I don't know why. More people should do that. Do that. Administrators of all athletics at all levels do that. Let's get Craig in Columbia in. He will start us off in this segment to talk a little Vols and Bama on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. What's up, Greg? Thank you for calling.
Hey, guys. I'm doing pretty good. Excited like everyone. I've been a long-time Tennessee Vol fan for a very long time. After the thumping we gave LSU a few weeks ago that actually blew up the line as well, I did a lot of reflection. And for all these younger Vol fans who have been disappointed with the way Tennessee's played the last 10 years or so, especially against Alabama, let me give you a little insight real quickly. Did a lot of reflection on what Tennessee had when they were doing well, what happened when all that changed. It all boils down to the right hire. And I want to thank everyone at the University of Tennessee for getting Danny White. First of all, there's the athletic director. Once again, I want to thank him for his great hire. He knew what kind of sports mind, football mind, Josh Heupel had. For all the younger folks that might not know, might not have researched Josh Heupel, he finished second to the Heisman winner in 2000. He coached the Heisman winner at Bradford at Oklahoma in 2008. He's coached several good quarterbacks over the years. He's a mind. He is a football mind, and that's what Tennessee has needed for a very long time. So I think Tennessee's in the right direction. Josh Heupel is going to look at Alabama's films all year long. He's going to have the right deal on the field, the right plays on the field, both on offense and defense. Our coaches have done a heck of a job. And for the longtime sports fans, I used to go to Birmingham to all the games Tennessee and Alabama played in Legion Field. And there's one great player that I heard on a sports talk show yesterday. Dale Jones, linebacker, made a great tip on an interception, jumped up, tipped it, caught it, went to his knees. I think they tied in that game, I believe. But if you can search Twitter for Dale Jones' comments, he got so emotional. It had me emotional. It brought tears to my eyes. And you could tell it had brought tears to his eyes talking about Tennessee football, that he was so much of a player when he played. And that's what we're building at Tennessee. All the young players, I love what he's getting in there. And all the young fans, just hang on, baby. The good times are coming back.
Greg, thank you, man. Fantastic phone call. Greg's seen a few of these Legion Field games.
Seen a few.
And what's crazy is, like I said, I started watching a bunch of like John Ward and intros and game highlights in the past. This thing's been streaky. It comes and it goes. Now, if you're a young Alabama fan, you don't know anything other than Alabama wins. It's been that way in Tennessee's favor.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone both ways over the years. You know, this rivalry has gone back and forth. It's just been lopsided for a long time now.
Think about this. The all-time series, Tennessee and Alabama. Alabama leads it 58 wins for Bama, 37 wins for Tennessee, 8 ties.
Mm-hmm.
Before Nick Saban was hired as the head coach at the University of Alabama, it was 43 to 37 to 8.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost neck and neck. So Saban has made it to where an entire generation of people, because the 15, you're right, it's a streaky rivalry, but the streaks have been 6 or 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee had the 8-game streak in the Fulmer tenure. But 15, that's the longest streak in this series. And Nick Saban has literally made it to where an entire generation doesn't even really consider this a rivalry with 15 wins in a row.
Let's get Jimmy be on with us in just a minute here. Let's check in with Joey on line 2. What's going on, Joey? Thank you for checking in.
Hey, fellas, not a whole lot. I just kind of had a little different twist on this, I guess. I've been listening all week to people from Alabama and Tennessee coming in, talking mad trash and everything. And I'm not that guy. I'm kind of mellow about it. Now, going in, I'm a lifelong Tennessee fan. Going in, granted, I want to kick Alabama's butt myself. But I look at it like this. At the beginning of the season, going into the season, everybody's talking about, well, how's Tennessee going to do? Will they improve from that last year? 7-6, 8-5, 9-4. We're kind of in a position to where what we're dealing with right now, we're so far ahead of schedule, and so this is all just a bonus. Say if we lose this game, we're still ahead of schedule because Heupel is still not quite at 2 years yet. So if we lose this game, we go against Georgia. We have a chance, a fighting chance to win the East, possibly face Alabama again, whatever. But even if we go 10-2, what have you, we're ahead of schedule, I say. And then if we beat Alabama, then we're so far ahead of schedule. So I'm an optimist.
He just sniped himself.
We lost him.
Right as he said he was an optimist, we lost him. He just lit off there. But I get where he's saying. A lot of people see this as like, my gosh. If somebody had just said, we got Jimmy, if somebody had just told you, well, let's start with Jimmy Himes, who joins us now, host of Sports Talk on WNML Radio. Jimmy, first of all, thanks for taking the time. I know this is a crazy week for you. Do you think most Vol fans, if somebody had gone to them the day that Josh Heupel was hired and said, I'm going to present this scenario for you, that in year 2 for Heupel, the Vols will be 6, playing number 3 Alabama at home with Game Day and SEC Nation again, both teams undefeated, the NCAA investigation, everything's hanging over you. Would you take this scenario, just sign here? Everybody in the world would have taken it. I mean, he has taken this thing, I think, well beyond where anybody could have seen it going so far.
Tennessee fans would have said, you're not talking end zones, you're talking twilight zone. There's no way that's going to happen. I mean, and Heupel wasn't the first choice of Danny.
Sure.
When they hired Heupel, I thought it was about the best they could do under the circumstances. I thought, having watched his offense at Central Florida, that it would have success in the SEC with the offense, but not to this degree. Mm-hmm. I have been very surprised. The Tennessee fan base has been surprised, and they're excited. I don't know that I've seen a bigger game here in the last at least 20 years, if not 30 years. This is huge.
Literally the first question I had written down to ask you was, does this week feel different to you than it has in the last however many years with Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa? Does this week feel different? Obviously, it sounds like it does.
It does. And the fans are excited. And we do this pick a score contest with fans. And most all of them have picked Tennessee to win by 34, 31, something in that range. But they're excited. They got hope. They believe Tennessee can win. More importantly, I think Tennessee's players believe they can win. In the past, they either knew they were going to lose or they kind of hoped they'd win. That's not the sense I get from this group. They're a very confident group. They feel like they can handle the situation, the occasion, and I expect Tennessee to play well. I also expect Alabama to play well. That's why I think this is going to be a great contest Saturday afternoon.
Got Jimmy Himes on with us at Jimmy Himes, again, host of Sports Talk on WNML Radio in Knoxville.
Jimmy, this has been an interesting game to talk about because you have to talk about it in a few different contexts. Like, okay, how do we prepare for this game if we assume Bryce Young is playing, if he's not playing, if he's playing and he's not 100%, if Cedric Tillman is playing or not for Tennessee? There's probably a little bit of a better proof of concept for this Tennessee offense without Tillman than the Alabama offense without Young. Makes sense. He's the Heisman-winning quarterback. But focusing on Tennessee for the moment, where are they right now with Cedric Tillman? He obviously had the tightrope surgery with the goal of playing against Alabama. Heupel said he won't play unless he's 100%. Where would you put the odds at this point of whether or not we see Cedric Tillman Saturday?
1%. He hasn't really practiced. He is not 100%. He's not even close. In fact, I don't think he'll be back until the Kentucky game. I'm very confident saying Cedric Tillman will not play against Alabama. Now, that's a blow. However, much to my surprise, even without him, they gained over 570 yards against Florida and over 500 yards against LSU. So do they miss him? Yeah, but not to the degree I thought they would. They've been much more productive and without him than I thought they could be. So that's a compliment to Hendon Hooker. It's a compliment to Jalen Hyatt and to Brew McCoy. It's also a compliment to Josh Heupel and the Tennessee offensive staff that they have performed at this level without Tillman.
And it was interesting. Ramel Keaton steps into that role, and Tennessee continues to essentially just utilize three receivers. It goes from Tillman, Brew McCoy, Jalen Hyatt to Brew McCoy, Jalen Hyatt, and now Ramel Keaton. Is that, do you expect us to keep seeing that on Saturday, or maybe is Squirrel White sprinkled in a little bit more? Is there a certain package with Walker Merrill, a certain drive? I mean, with the hurry up and when they don't sub, you obviously can only keep the guys that you started the drive with. But do you think it's more of the same with just those three, or do we see a little more of the younger guys?
I kind of think it's what you said. It's going to be more of those three with a sprinkle in of Squirrel White, of Walker Merrill, of Jimmy Holiday. They maybe even Callaway. I don't know. But I don't think they will get many snaps at all. I don't think any of those receivers will get more than 5 to 7 snaps in the game. So I think they're going to stick with the main three and see what they're able to do. But I'm going to tell you, Brew McCoy and Jalen Hyatt have really stepped up. And at this point, gosh, they're not too many better 1-2 combinations in the SEC than what those two guys are doing right now.
On with Jimmy Himes, host of Sports Talk WNML Radio. What's the latest on the Jalen McCullough thing? The whole thing seems odd and weird, and I know Heupel really hasn't said anything. Do you know anything else about that? And not just his status for the game, but just what happened or what all went down?
Well, I don't want to regurgitate the arrest report, but I do know, having been in this business a long time, there are always two sides to every story. Now, it doesn't look good for McCullough. And I will say this. I gave you 1% on Tillman playing. I'll give you 1% on McCullough, too. I'll be shocked if he plays. I think they're going to sit him. And I just think his actions, even though there may be more to the story and there's some other things that may have occurred, you can't go punching a guy and following him down the hallway after he has apologized to you for the injury. So I don't think McCullough's going to play. And I think that's going to be a big blow. Not that he's a great player, but he's played more snaps on defense than anybody else, and he's also kind of the quarterback of that secondary. They're going to miss his ability to make sure everybody gets lined up properly.
What do you think happens with Bryce Young on the flip side with Alabama? There seems to be a lot of optimism on the Alabama side that he's going to play, and a lot of the Tennessee journalists that I've heard say, I think they need to prepare for the other guys.
The Tennessee journalists don't know.
I've heard some wild scenarios, Jimmy.
Yeah, and I'm one of them. Look, I'll say this. I don't know, but I will be very surprised if Bryce Young doesn't play. If there was even an inkling of him playing against A&M last week, I'm sure he's going to be ready. Now, I know that he's got that he didn't even warm up before the A&M game, which was kind of a tip-off that he wasn't going to play. But I'll be really surprised if he doesn't play in this game. I expect him back. I'll say this, Tennessee's coaching staff expects him to play too. And now if he becomes ineffective for whatever reason, then you may see him taken out. But I will be really surprised if Bryce Young doesn't start that game.
Got Jimmy Himes on with us again, host of Sports Talk WNML Radio.
So you gave 1% on the chances for both Cedric Tillman and Jalen McCullough to play for the Vols. So let's move forward with the assumption that neither of them see the field on Saturday. This is something that you would have thought insane to say, I think, in the summer. But is it so crazy to sit here after what we've seen in the last 2 weeks with this Tennessee offense, not really missing a beat without Tillman, to say that this team will miss McCullough more than they would miss their potential first-round pick wide receiver, Cedric Tillman?
That's a really good question. In fact, that's one of the questions I'm going to ask our panel today when we have our radio show. I think it's conceivable you could miss McCullough more. Why? Well, we just mentioned Tennessee had over 500 yards against LSU in Florida without Tillman. Now, having said that, you would love to have Tillman against a defense as good as Alabama, against a team as good as Alabama. So there's no doubt in my mind you would miss him. But here's the concern from the flip side of that. There might be some secondary busts for Tennessee. And look, Tennessee, the defense is better than it was a year ago, but the secondary still isn't very good.
Yeah.
And if they have any misalignments, misassignments, Alabama's going to take advantage of it. And so I think there's a very real chance that Tennessee, at the end of the game, would say they miss McCullough more than they miss Tillman.
You know, this run game is so critical to setting up the offense for success. It probably doesn't get talked about enough. Jabari Small might not get talked about enough, and what he's done to help this offense this season. Top 10 run defense coming into town in Alabama. How much does Tennessee need to do on the ground to be able to be above that 30-point threshold that it appears they need to be above just to have a chance to win?
They got to at least run for over 100 yards, 100, 125, somewhere in that range. They've got to be able to keep Alabama from teeing off on Hendon Hooker. Alabama's got tremendous pass rushers, not just Will Anderson, but Dallas Turner and some others. So Tennessee's got to have some success on the ground, and they've had trouble running the ball against Alabama. So I think that if they don't have success on the ground, it's going to make it more difficult for Hendon Hooker, and Tennessee may end up having to go more with the short passing game because they'll realize that Hooker's not going to have much time to throw the football. So I think running against Alabama, at least having a measure of success, is going to be very key for Tennessee.
Jimmy Hyams with us on 104.5 The Zone.
So, Jimmy, the two units on the teams that everybody talks about, the Vol DBs and the Tide wide receivers, which one of those groups has a chance to most represent itself in a way that would mean that they were smoking cigars on Saturday night?
I'm going to have to go with Alabama's receivers because I think Bryce Young is going to play. And those young receivers seem to be gaining some momentum, seem to be playing better, seem to be getting on the page with Bryce Young to a greater extent than they were earlier. And so, I'm really not crazy about Tennessee's secondary. So I'm going to have to go with Alabama's receivers. They've got a lot of talent. They just had not played that much, and they had not built a rapport with Bryce Young to a certain degree. So I'm going to go with Alabama's receivers getting the edge there.
All right, on the way out, Jimmy Hyams, are you a prediction kind of a guy? Do you have a gut feeling or a prediction for this game on the way out?
Yeah, I'm a prediction kind of guy, as foolish as that is. I've got Alabama winning. The score I picked is 31-27. I think Tennessee will be right there. I think Tennessee will have a chance in the fourth quarter. But Alabama just knows how to win these kind of games. And I think Alabama will prevail. But I think it's going to be a whale of a football game, and I think Tennessee will be right in it until the end.
Jimmy, thanks for the time, man. We know how busy you are. Always great catching up with you.
You got it, guys. Y'all have a great day.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Follow
Jim.
him at Jimmy Hyams on Twitter. Do that. Always good content from him. Listen to the show when you're around there, WNML Radio. He's the host of Sports Talk. When we come back, Bill from Laverne he's going to pick up on an earlier call about the Dale Jones interception. I love history calls. I love when people do that. Bill Hold will come to you as soon as we come back. You want to join the discussion? The phone line's open, 615-737-1045. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. The Casbah will be rocking in Knoxville tomorrow, that's for sure. We got zone programming, right? We're sending an army of orange-clad people up there to do pregame stuff.
Ramon Foster, Will Bowling, Ron Slay, Kayla Anderson, Jonathan Schaefer will all be in Knoxville. They are on air from the Student Union Center, and it is commercial-free, wall-to-wall Tennessee coverage while they're there. So they're there from 11 to 12:30 Central Time. So if you're in Knoxville, you want to go check them out. They will start at noon Eastern until 1:30 Eastern.
Boy, my invitation must have got lost in the mail. I'll have to go check that again. Bill in Laverne was kind enough to hold, and we had a caller who called in earlier was talking about just the emotion of this game and this week and talking about a play made by Dale Jones. Bill in Laverne is on now. I think you want to kind of pick up the ball and run with it, so to speak, on that particular play. Is that right, Bill? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. A lot better than last year on my way to the Ole Miss game. I called the station a bit angry. But anyway, Dale Jones intercepted the ball. Tennessee won the game. That was Tony Robertson, quarterback.
Yeah.
Balled out. Was going to win by 3 or more scores easily. However, they got his knees, took his knees out, blew him for the rest of the year. And of course, that changed. That was Major's best team, 1985. Went to an SEC championship, won the Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Vols, yeah.
Should have easily won a national title that year. Blew Miami off the field when Jimmy Johnson said, "We beat Tennessee, we should be national title." So that was one of Major's better teams. Dale Jones did tip the ball. He intercepted when Bama had an opportunity to primarily come back and win the game against the former head coach for Alabama, Mike Shula.
Bill, what's your favorite Vols Bama memory ever? Favorite one ever? Favorite memory? Was it that, or do you have another one?
Favorite memory of Alabama every time we win. I was at the 06 game. I'm on my way to Knoxville now to start getting ready, make sure I'm there to end. Same as Eric Ainge called into a radio show yesterday. Got a cigar. I'm taking it to the stadium, and I'm going to do the same as the Bammers the past 8 years, puff it in the stadium. And I don't see why anybody can say anything about it. Nothing's been done to them 4 years ago when they were puffing them in the stadium.
Bill, have a fantastic time, man, and appreciate you checking in. Bill's got a cigar packed. He is leaving today, so he misses nothing tomorrow. Like, he wants to wake up and just go down the street and start the festivities.
Yeah, there will be, if Tennessee is able to do this, there will be a massive cloud of smoke hanging over Neyland Stadium after the game.
Is that generally frowned upon? To smoke cigars at a stadium?
Well, to smoke anything in a stadium in the modern world that we live in, everything is non-smoking now, which I grew up when everything was smoking. People smoked on airplanes.
Right. Oh, yeah, you'd have ashes in your eggs.
I have all kinds of respiratory issues, and I'm quite sure it's because everybody around me smoked all the time.
But I've been to Tennessee-Alabama games in Tuscaloosa. I've never been to a Tennessee win in Tuscaloosa. There is always a massive cloud of smoke hovering over Bryant-Denny Stadium. After the Tennessee-Alabama game, people are walking out of the building with cigars, students, fans. Yeah, it's technically no smoking, but there is plenty of smoking.
I don't think anybody will say anything to anybody.
No.
I think anybody who wants to puff a cigar, if the Vols win amidst the chaos.
Cigars will be puffed either way, no matter who wins. There'll be some
true.
Bama fans in Knoxville.
Do you think Tennessee fans will rush the field? That was a topic of discussion earlier this week on the radio station.
I don't. By the way, on the cigar thing, Butch Jones was puffing a cigar in the Alabama locker room last time he was in Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, right as he was signing that contract to come to Arkansas State.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're smoking cigars in the locker room after these games, so they'll smoke them in the stadium. I don't know. I've been going back and forth on that because I could see it. I could very well see it happening. I could also see the Florida situation where people are just sticking. That stadium was full for 20 minutes after the game ended with people singing Rocky Top. I could see that happening. But Alabama, that's a different animal. Beating Alabama, considering what Alabama still is and what Florida is not. Florida, it was, you have to beat Florida. You just have to. That's not the conversation with Alabama. It's the fact that you are even in a position in year 2 of Josh Heupel to where people are picking Tennessee to win. There is so much money. I mean, Vegas all the most money going to one team this weekend in college football is on Tennessee.
That's what Chelsea Messenger said
Right.
yesterday, yeah.
So just that we're at that point, I think is shocking to a lot of people, but there's no conversation about, no, you have to beat Alabama. You have to, or the conversation around Josh Heupel completely changes. No, there's none of that. So because of that, I think that you could very well see the field stormed, and I don't think Danny White would have a problem with it. I think Danny White would happily cut that check.
Yeah, I think he would. I absolutely think he would. I think we got 1 hour left in this 2-hour extravaganza. So here's what we're going to do. We'll continue to talk Vols and Alabama. If you want to join the discussion, you want to talk about anything. We don't have any guests. We do have Call Your Shot coming up. Also, I did a little digging last night. I told you guys I stayed up late and I YouTubed a whole bunch of Tennessee-Alabama games, and I found some really cool audio from a man named John Ward, who is very much beloved in this part of the world, as he should be. We'll even hear from John Ward in hour number 2. So get ready to have some goosebumps, because you will. All that coming up next on Blaine and Mickey with special guest host Lucas Panzica. So
It's 2 o'clock. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Robert Walsh. The Astros defeated the Mariners 4-2 to take a 2-0 lead in their best-of-5 ALDS series. You got 3 games coming on tonight, the Guardians and the Yankees, the Dodgers and the Padres, and the Braves and Phillies. And their first pitch is at 3:37, and the series is tied at 1. In the NHL, the Buck Rising curse strikes again. We got some catfish on the ice, but it was not enough for the Preds to take down the Stars. They lose 4-1 at Bridgestone. And in the NFL, Washington Commanders, they snapped that 4-game losing streak, and that win did not do enough for Ron Rivera. He was still upset after the win, but a win nonetheless. They take down the Chicago Bears 12-7. And finally, coming up this weekend, Bama, Vols, 2:30 tomorrow. We got you covered with a special edition of the Tennessee Tailgate Show with the morning show crew and the rightful game day picker. I'm going to die on this hill, Ron Slay, from 11 to 12:30, live from 21st Mortgage Plaza. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Mickey 104.5 The Zone. So Lucas Panzica is filling in for Blaine, and we're sitting here, and he just goes, "Oh my gosh, so many injuries." Did one of the Titans get hurt on the bye week? Did somebody fall getting out of the cold tub or something? No, these are other injuries.
Is it refreshing? It's a Friday, and Mike Vrabel typically on Fridays tells us who is out. We get the injury report. We're not talking about Titans injuries. When is the last Friday that we did not spend talking about Titans injuries? Yeah.
We do it. I know we talked a lot of Tennessee and a lot of Alabama today, but we're talking about the Titans and injuries. One thing to keep an eye on next week, and I know right now everybody thinks you got other things on your mind. One thing to keep an eye on next week, Mike Vrabel, Brett Ryan came and sat in with Blaine and me and did a segment earlier this week. Mike Vrabel spoke once this week. He spoke on Monday, and he got asked by, I believe it was Corey Curtis, about, hey, do you guys do more? And Corey, if you're listening, I'm just paraphrasing it. Essentially asking, hey, do you guys do more self-scouting maybe when you've got these extra few days? And Mike talked a little bit about self-scouting. He goes, I'll tell you, though, we're going to reward hard work with more playing time. There's going to be people who play more and people who play. Corey didn't ask that.
Yeah.
So you got to ask Mike anything like that to get a specific answer. That's the way he does business. So Rep Ryan and I were talking in the hallway. This was, I guess, Wednesday. The days have kind of blended in.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, and the days are blended in. And I said, hey, man, did you hear what Vrabel said Monday? And he goes, did you not hear the coaches show last night? And I was like, no, I was at karate with the rabble-rouser. And he said, he got asked about something completely different again, something completely different. And then he steered that to, but I'll tell you one thing that's going to happen. People who've earned playing time are going to play.
So we're going to reward some guys.
We're going to reward some guys. So, again, I know what week it is. I know what's 24 hours away. I know all that. But this is interesting, and Lucas brought it up. And we'll talk about it next week, I'm sure, because we'll be right back into our Titans mode. But Mark Mariani was on with me yesterday, and we were walking out, and Mark Mariani just killed it. You should go back and listen to the podcast. He talked about punt returning and who should be punt returning and why.
Mm-hmm.
He got into the offense and some of the formations. This is a former NFL receiver and literally top 5 punt and kick return yardage all time for the Titans and Oilers franchise. He gave some fantastic insight on those condensed formations and how maybe I'll tie it back to the Vols. Josh Heupel, when a receiver lines up, he lines up outside the numbers. They have a good running game, right?
Wide splits.
Wide splits. Titans don't always have wide splits. He got into all that. It was fantastic stuff. But when we were walking down the ramp to go to our cars, he goes, man, there's one guy I wish that I would have shouted out. I said, who? He said, I just wanted to say something about this Kevin Rader guy, this journeyman tight end. He said, I watched the game, and I said he had 3 special teams tackles. And Mark, again, all pro as a return man, said, but he affected 2 others. He was everywhere on special teams. And I thought, Jeff Swain is the guy that they called their best blocker. He's been put on skates some. He's maybe struggled some at times. He would probably tell you that with blocking. Austin Hooper's been on a milk carton at times.
Yeah. Six catches through 5 games. He had 12 catches through 5 games a year ago in what was considered a down year for Hooper with the Browns.
Sure. Chig, haven't gotten him going. I know he had the touchdown in the red zone. After watching him practice every day in fall camp, I would have thought Chig and Hooper would have been everything.
Yeah.
In this offense.
Especially with the injuries with Burks out and Kyle Phillips banged up. some of the injuries to receivers.
So when I'm thinking about, hey, man, we're going to reward some people, doesn't a tight end going and knocking everybody around on special teams seem like a guy you're like, okay, man, you're going to get some run you're going to get some run with the offense. So, again, I know this is next week. We'll talk about it some. But we kind of went down that road. I'll be real interested to see how wide-reaching that is for Mike Vrabel and exactly what he's talking about. And we're going to have to talk about, should the Titans make a trade? We'll get into all that. But I wrote down Kevin Rader. Does this mean like Joe Schobert, who's not the flashiest guy, but has been great in run defense the last couple of weeks, does he get called up to the 53? Because he's not. He's still on the practice squad. Do they reward that guy? I want to see who gets rewarded with more playing time. To me, that may be the most intriguing thing. Can they self-scout the offense and score in the fourth quarter? Everybody wants to know that. But as far as side notes, that Vrabel started, no one asked this question. Hey, man, are you going to reward some more people? Nobody asked that. I'll be real interested to see when we start getting practice reports and we see who's doing what does that mean for the Titans next week?
Who gets rewarded as far as playing time and who can feasibly come back out of the bye week that we haven't even seen yet this season. We haven't seen Elijah Molden yet this season. We haven't seen Racey McMath. We haven't seen Monty Rice, who was practicing in the lead up to the Washington game. He did not play in that game. You would think 2 weeks removed from that when they host the Colts, not this Sunday, but the next, he'd have a good chance to play. And suddenly that inside linebacker core that was depleted 2 weeks ago, if Zach Cunningham is able to work his way back, has bodies there. So I'm interested in both who gets rewarded, because you're right, Mike Vrabel sort of went a little bit out of his way to say that, and who can feasibly come back to help this team off of IR, off the injury report. Can Bud Dupree get back? Can Ola Adaney get back with the thing going on with his neck? We know Traylon Burks is not coming back. He's got to miss 3 more games. So how much more important does that make the potential return of Racey McMath back at wide receiver? Got put on IR with a hip injury a couple weeks before the season started. He hasn't seen the field yet. So there's so many questions with this team 5 weeks into the season that might be answered when we come out of the bye week as they look for their 4th straight win. We were talking about it off the air. All the issues with this team, like fundamental issues, the offensive line, at left tackle, issues that are not likely to be solved throughout the course of this season. They could beat the Colts on Sunday out of the bye week. That is very feasible that out of the off week, we all know Mike Vrabel's record after bye weeks, they could beat Indianapolis, who has obviously struggled this season, have them at home. Then you go on the road to face a Texans team that's improved, got a good win over the Jags the other week, but a very, very winnable game. If that happens, you're looking at a 5-2 football team that has won 5 games in a row, that still has all of the issues that have been established throughout the early portion of this season. Now, that has to happen first. You got to win those 2 games. Those are not gimmies whatsoever. But it's just a crazy situation that we're in, that the Titans, if that were to happen, would be sitting at 5-2 next to all these other teams in the NFL that would be 5-2 or 6-1 or whatever it might be, with all the problems that they have, injury or otherwise. It's just a crazy thing to think about if they can win out of the bye week and get healthy.
Well, and the thing that they've had so far, and maybe I'll knock some wood here on this countertop, is they have had a healthy Derrick Henry. And I know they won games without him last year, and that's well established. But just his ability to press defenses, to draw attention away from other people, at some point that has to mean more action for some of the other people, because so much attention is paid to Derrick Henry.
The attention that's been paid to Henry in the passing game this season, and maybe we should have noticed this more last year, because Henry was on pace to have a career year catching the football before he got hurt. But he's picked up right where he left off in that aspect this season. I mean, you're talking about a fake screen to Henry on the right side that devoted all the attention of the defense towards that to set up Dontrell Hilliard. All he needed was 1 block on the outside to get in for a touchdown against Washington on that opening score the Titans had last Sunday. Mike Vrabel talked about how much they were able to get the football against Vegas to Henry in the passing game, and Vegas had to respect it in the second half, and it opened other things up for the offense. Obviously, they didn't do much with it. They didn't score in that second half. But nonetheless, Derrick Henry in the passing game and the attention that he's drawing there, that's been also probably a surprise this season that should not really have been a surprise with how he left. Maybe because he came back in that Bengals game and that was a non-factor. But it was a huge part of his game in 2021 before he got hurt.
And if you go to practice, you see him work on it. You see him catching passes and working on different things. So all that work may be starting to pay off for him. Lucas mentioned they have bye, obviously, this week. They host the Colts. They go to the Texans. If they can get to 5-2, then the next 3 games at KC, host Denver. Denver's like Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. I don't think you ever know what you're going to get. Then they have to go to Green Bay, which has been a house of horrors for them.
Yeah.
So they've won in KC. They have. But we all remember them just getting throttled in Green Bay. What was that, a couple of years ago? So you can get to 5-2, and then you play this stretch that could be tough. I think 9 wins the South. And if you get to 5-2, that means you only have to win 4 more games the rest of the way. I think that will win the South this year.
And Terrence tweets at me saying Monty Rice played special teams. He did. He was on the 53. He didn't play a single defensive snap.
Yeah, I think he played every special team snap and none on defense.
Right.
So obviously there was a plan of working him back, but absolutely to see him maybe worked more on the defensive side. All right, here's what we got. We got Call Your Shot coming up for the final segment. We got plenty of Vols and Alabama talk. Jimmy Himes, if you're just joining us, he gave a percentage for Cedric Tillman to play. He gave a percentage for Jalen McCullough to play. We will share those percentages with you. Also, I did a little dig and found some fantastic John Ward audio that I want to play. Let's take a quick call from EJ, though, is this Bellsburg? Bellsburg. Where in the world is that on the map?
Between Charlotte and Ashland City.
Okay. Oh, I got you. What's going on?
49 Highway. God's country. Well, you're talking about Tennessee football, of course. And one guy was talking about the Dale Jones interception.
Yes.
I've been to about 30 Alabama-Tennessee games. And when that happened, the crowd just gasped. You could hear it in the stadium, you know. People went, did I just see that? Did I just see that? And it's that kind of a play that you have to have in order to win the game, that kind of determination. And I've got another play. The last game that Tennessee won, 2006, Eric Ainge was the QB.
Yep.
He throws a pass, and it's intercepted by Alabama's All-American safety. He takes off like a jet down the sideline. Ainge gets a beat on him, runs like a greased monkey, and knocks him out at about the 10-yard line. We hold. They kick a field goal. We end up winning by 1. Now, that's what it takes to win an Alabama-Tennessee football game. A great play, whole team, and I'll see you at the game.
EJ, fantastic phone call, man. From Bellsburg.
God's country.
That is God's country. I like it up there.
Yeah.
That's nice. It's a nice part of the world. I appreciate him checking in. All right. Open lines from here on out. Lucas is sitting in for Blaine. Bert is rocking the wheels of steel today. We'll take your calls. We'll talk Tennessee, Alabama. You want to tell stories about the past. You got a fantastic point by EJ. Maybe I know Lucas Panzica has intently studied this game all week. Who could be that person who makes that play for Tennessee? Who could be that person? Doesn't necessarily have to be Hendon Hooker. Could it be a backup? Could it be a less heralded player? You know, could it be one of the guys stepping in for Jalen McCullough if something like that happens? We can get into all that. You can share any of that you want to. 615-737-1045. Again, when we come back, Jimmy Himes, percentage that Tillman would play, percentage that McCullough will play. You will want to hear these numbers. That's next. Now is the perfect time, as if you needed one, you did, to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So here's what you do. You can join today. You can get started with $150 in free bets, and that's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's all it takes, and that's free bets back if your first bet doesn't win. All you got to do is sign up with the promo code Mickey, and you're ready to rock and roll. Like maybe, call me crazy, you're on the Cooper Rush train. You think Dallas and the points versus Philly is a good play, which I do. Bet it. You can bet it all on an app that's safe and secure, super easy to use. You get paid your winnings fast when you win, and you maybe even want to try a parlay on that game. Combine some bets for an even bigger payday. Don't fumble this chance to get $150 back in free bets, win or lose, with the promo code Mickey. Make every moment more this season with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You do have to be 21 or older, present in Tennessee. First online real money wager, only $10 first deposit. Required bonus issued as non-withdrawable free bets. Expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica just pulling marathon hours this week, filling in for Blaine. Among other things, he filled in for Buck. He filled in for Blaine. You got a high school game tonight, Portland?
Portland hosts Station Camp. Both teams stepping out of the region. Not a region game, but it's an inter-county game, so very important to both teams. Both having really nice years as well. And it's week 9. I mean, you're like senior nights are happening.
The fastest thing in the sports world. The slowest thing is the NBA season.
Yeah.
The 1997 NBA season just ended.
Yeah.
The fastest thing in all of sports is high school football. Next week, week 10, I mean, we haven't even gotten a sack full of candy yet on Halloween. And this deal, if you don't make the playoffs, you're about to be done with your year or your career if you're a senior. You're a cheerleader, if you're in the band, whatever it is. Hey, man, it's all about over. That's why anytime we talk about high school football, if you have any connection whatsoever, go to the games because it's just so precious few opportunities to do that.
It's week 9, so in 2 weeks we will be wrapping up the regular season.
Goodness gracious.
Now we do the playoffs all the way through the semifinals.
Yeah.
And then we're lucky enough to be a part of the TSSAA Network's coverage of state championship weekend. So it's 15 weekends in totality for us. So it does fly by for a lot of teams that, that it's 10 weeks and done, and maybe some that a lot of teams lose in the first round and the second round of the postseason. For us, though, it is a full 15 weeks, but it's always crazy to think that we're almost at that double-digit mark. Next week will be week 10.
Well, perfect weather. Can't ask for
yeah.
better than this. You got no reason not to go. Support your local community, local kids, local high school. Maybe you're going to support one of your local universities. Maybe you'll go to Knoxville this weekend. Maybe you got tickets. You got big plans. Boy, a lot of people have big plans. We've heard from people already who are already driving to Knoxville because they don't want to miss anything. Even a caller who said he has a cigar with him that he will smoke in the stadium. Let's take a couple more phone calls. Tony the Stud up next on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Tony, how are you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. It's like we're breaking records out here because I'm getting to talk to Lucas Panzica twice in 2 shows in a day. I don't think that's ever been done. It just shows what's going to be happening tomorrow. I woke up early this morning, fellas, with there was no nervousness. The difference I think this year for Vol fans is that I'm not saying that I'm confident that we're going to win the game, but I'm more excited because I'll be 34 this year, and I can't remember being at an age well enough to watch a game like this and at this caliber happening and being engaged in it as a grown adult. So I'm super excited for it. The one thing that I'm concerned about is Will Anderson. If he doesn't really shake things up there for Alabama defensively, I mean, my thoughts are that I just don't think Alabama is going to be able to slow down that offense for Tennessee. And the reason that they're so efficient and so powerful just seems to be because of how quickly they are able to snap the ball, the ability to get back on the ball, to be able to do it mistake-free, to not draw the false starts and penalties, to be able to get back in scheme and do what they want to do. They're scoring at an unbelievable rate, not just for Tennessee football, but for college football in general. It's just super electric. So I'm excited for that. I will be in Knoxville tomorrow, too, and I'm excited to go down there. I've been to 2 Vol games before. I don't believe I'm going to be able to get in the doors tomorrow, but it'll be my first time experiencing game day down there, and I'm looking forward to seeing y'all do it down there. And for the last time this week, Lucas, come on!
You can find a way in there, Tony. Scale the facade if you need to.
Hey, man, whatever it takes. How much does Will Anderson and Dallas Turner and Associates? How much does that have your attention, Lucas?
Very much. We gave the stat when we talked about it in hour 3 when I was with Tyler Ivins earlier today.
Hour 3 of 5.
That's right. Hour 3 of 5. We gave one thing. We each had to give one thing that if Tennessee does not do this, you're not winning this game. Like, throw the idea of winning this game out the window. If this does not happen, for me, it was protecting Hendon Hooker, which is obvious. But this front has been really pleasantly surprising offensively in the way they've protected Hooker this season.
Yep.
The improvement they showed on the offensive line, running the football and keeping Hooker upright. And their best game was against the best front they've played all year against LSU. And I saw this week that this Tennessee offensive line has allowed pressure on 16% of dropbacks this season. It's the second lowest rate in the FBS.
I also saw that stat.
Alabama has generated pressure at the 6th highest rate in FBS. That's Will Anderson. It's Chris Braswell. It's Dallas Turner. That's the cheetah package that they kind of debuted against Texas A&M.
So don't get in 3rd and long.
Made Haynes King life hell.
Yeah.
And Will Anderson didn't even have a sack. He had 8 pressures in that game. 8 of, I think, 18 pressures came from Will Anderson. So, yes, this Tennessee offensive line has protected Hooker very, very well, especially against LSU, but they have not met a challenge like this. And Ramon told me this morning when he joined us in hour 1, it's about opening up the screen game, which Tennessee does so much of. It's about running the football right at those guys and then going from there. I mean, it's going to be a huge challenge. Hendon Hooker is going to get thrown to the field thrown on the grass at some point. Will Anderson, in my opinion, is the best player in college football. But if they can just avoid speeding Hooker up, because what's the quickest way for him to snap that interception-less streak? For him his process to just get sped up because the probable number 1 overall pick's in his face constantly. If they can avoid that, they have a great chance to put up, 35, 38, and just stay in this game to the end and find a way to win.
Yeah, one account of the game for Alabama against A&M last week had the Tide with 28 pressures.
Oh, 28 pressures.
28. One of the accounts, and it had Will Anderson with 12. 12. So regardless of what, 12. I mean, come on, man.
He's a nightmare.
He is a nightmare. And this cheetah package that you're talking about, obviously 3rd and long can mean bad things. I mean, against Alabama's defensive front, anything could mean bad things. One of the things that has kind of stuck out to me this week is this. When you watch Tennessee, they have an amazing quick game, but they throw several deep shots a game, and they hit a couple of them every game.
Mm-hmm.
Can you keep that Alabama front away from Hooker long enough for him to take those 2 or 3 deep shots, or 4 or 5, however many they want to try to scheme up, without him taking a big hit?
Yeah, because we talk about this Alabama wide receiver core just isn't what we're used to. To be fair, what we're used to is
literally NFL first-round draft
Jerry
picks.
Judy's and the Henry Ruggs and the Julio Joneses and the Amari Coopers. It's a high standard. But no,
you didn't even mention the Heisman guy.
I didn't even mention Devontae Smith, who literally won the Heisman.
So,
it's not what we're used to. And it's true, there's drop-off there. But the same goes for their defensive backfield. And we were talking to Mick Gillespie about it yesterday of Bama Insider, and he was like, that's kind of an anomaly because there's been no recruiting drop-off there.
Right.
There's been hardly any recruiting drop-off across the board for Alabama. Yet this defensive backfield is not what it typically is. Now, Kool-Aid McKinstry is a great player. He's their number 1 corner. He's a punt returner. Jordan Battle is who he is, a veteran safety. He's played a ton of football for Alabama. But it's something that can be taken advantage of. It's a matchup I think Tennessee will like on the outside. You just got to keep Hooker clean.
Got to keep him clean. He may have to run some because he's running for his life. But I would be strategic about him running the ball, obviously, because he's so good at it. You don't want him to take big shots. It's one of those things. If you can get 4, get 4. Don't try to push it to 6.
Yeah.
If there's out of bounds, get to out of bounds. Don't put your head down to get a half a more yard. Just be real smart. But yeah, obviously, in the passing game and keeping both quarterbacks upright. On the flip side with Tennessee, we had Jimmy Himes on. And by the way, I teased this, so I'll give it to you. Jimmy Himes, percentage that Cedric Tillman plays, he said 1%. We asked percentage that Jalen McCullough plays. He said, I will set that at the same 1%.
Yeah.
He provided that number for both of them in case you were waiting for that number, 1% for both. But going back to what we were talking about, I stuck that in and it blew my own train of thought. But Tennessee's defensive front, you talked about the offensive line and how well they had played, maybe above the expectations of some. And even last week without your left tackle, without Mincy, still played pretty much lights out. Still did a fantastic.
And he's back.
He's back. So they did a fantastic job. Well, the defensive front has really gotten, ask Pittsburgh about the Vols defensive front. Ask Pitt about how that worked for them. They can get after a quarterback. Everybody that I've listened to in Alabama, every podcast, every article I could find to write, everybody who covers Alabama says, oh, yeah, he's going to play. Bryce Young's going to play. A whole lot of the Tennessee stuff that I've read, that I've consumed, podcasts, everything I could find to listen to, I'm looking out for, a combination of all three quarterbacks or two, or the kid from Martin's going to play.
Ty Simpson.
Ty Simpson's going to get. Look, man, if you're Bryce Young, this is what you're at Alabama for, is to play in games like this. I heard one of the Alabama players say in an interview this week, we're everybody's championship game. Everybody gets up to play us. Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. They play somebody else's championship game every week, so they're used to that. Cortisone shot, does that get Bryce Young feeling better? But if he's out there, if you're Tennessee, then okay, we're going to hit him as much as we can. So if you're vulnerable on the back end, how many extra guys can you send? Your secondary is going to have to hold up some, especially if you say, we're going to send everything we got at Bryce Young. Okay, then your secondary's got to hold up. They got a spot tackle. Nothing gets behind them. If you're going to send the house, then the guys who are left have got to hold their ground.
And there's just zero trust that they can do that. Zero. Secondary did not play well against LSU. Tennessee had success defensively against LSU because LSU could not run the football. 55 yards on the day. Now, sack yardage counts there, which I think is dumb in college football, but it is what it is. Jaden Daniels sacked 5 times. Stuffed on all 3 of their 4th down tries. 2 of those were runs. One was a 4th and 10 where Jaden Daniels was sacked at the end of the first half. So this Tennessee secondary is going to give up some big plays, no matter who's in there at quarterback. They're going to get torched a few times, regardless of how much you want to talk about this Alabama wide receiver core not being the standard of what they typically have. It's just going to happen. Warren Burrell's their most experienced corner. He's out for the year. Jimmy Hyam says Jalen McCullough is 1% to play. He's their most experienced defensive player in general. He's played more snaps than anybody.
More snaps than anybody.
Yeah. And Jalen McCullough is not the best safety in the SEC by any stretch. He's a good tackler. He gets people lined up. Trayvon Flowers is going to have to take that role. And I think Danico Slaughter will have to slide in there. They're still figuring things out on that end. So that's going to be frustrating for Tennessee fans. They're going to give up, especially if Bryce Young plays, they're going to give up some third downs. That's going to be really frustrating for that crowd, like it was against Florida. You got to give Florida credit. They converted on 3rd and 4th down. They made it a long day for Tennessee's defense. And what's a better way to take air out of a stadium than to get them all out for a 3rd down and then keep converting and then keep converting and then keep converting? So that's going to be something to watch in this game because they're going to have to play offense on defense and just sell out. Go to Bryce Young. Problem is, he's good at picking out those spots. He's good at finding ways he's savvy when he runs the ball, like Hendon Hooker is. But Hendon Hooker's not the Heisman winner. He might be the next Heisman winner. I don't know. But he's not last year's Heisman winner.
Well, Bama always seems to have great timing with their offense too, where it's a slant pattern, it's a shallow dig, something like that, and then a receiver catches it. Well, especially with all those NFL guys, they could catch deep balls, but they catch a 6-yard pass and run it for 36 yards.
Yeah,
they keep everything on time. Especially the Tua version of the offense did such a fantastic job of that. Well, so does Bryce Young, where you just keep people moving all the time, hitting guys in motion. Maybe not all the big shots like you see with Tennessee where they just throw it way down the field sometimes. Bama has so much success with short passes and then having athletic dudes who can just keep on running after that.
Yeah, if Jahmyr Gibbs is the best player on the field on Saturday, I'm not sure how Tennessee gets out of there with a win. And that's a very real possibility.
He has run for 360 yards in the last 2 games.
154 against A&M, average 7 yards per carry. And he'll line up anywhere.
Leads them in rushing and receiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the best receiver.
Nick Saban hitting that transfer portal. 360, I believe, is the number for him. Let's take a couple more of these phone calls. Let's get, who was up first? Jason in Smyrna wants to talk a little Vols and Crimson Tide. What's going on, Jason?
Hey, Mickey. How you doing? Hey, Lucas.
Hey, man.
Hey, just want real quick, love listening to you guys. Really grateful to have folks like Blaine with the intelligence of football that he has and be able to communicate well. And Mickey, you're really easy on the ear, so I love listening to you guys all the time. And Lucas, you do a fantastic job. So thank you guys.
It's like the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. Thank you.
So I'm 43. I've lived in Nashville my entire life, and we got a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And the only thing they've known about Alabama, Tennessee football is how bad we get beat consistently and joked on and all these different things. I've listened all week, and I've listened to you guys for years. And I've heard a lot of people talk about the rivalry and the history of it, and in reality, for the past 15 plus years and going past that, it's very much been one-sided. But my hope is, I hope we win this weekend. But my hope is that we are beginning to see a turn where this rivalry is not so daggum one-sided, and that we can come into the third week of October and actually be excited about the game, because it makes college football better, at least for Tennesseans it does. And that's what my hope is. And I do believe that Josh Heupel is doing a great job, and I do have this hope and belief that he is and will turn this rivalry back into what it was historically, and where my kids can wake up on that Saturday morning and be excited about at least watching a good game instead of the consistent blowout or just poor performance or whatever it might be. And that's what I'm excited about. So I'm excited about that. I do believe that that's changing, and I'm excited about tomorrow. And, hey, go Vols.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. He's measured in his comments.
Was measured.
He's very measured. But, and by the way, thanks for all the nice stuff that you said. He has 3 kids. The oldest one is 14. In that child's lifetime, that child has never seen Tennessee beat Alabama. And this is a rivalry game. Like, people get up for this. They plan, okay, third Saturday. They plan, here's where we're going to be. And you literally changed flights in an airport to see this game. To be with your lovely fiance, you have altered time and space to watch this game with like-minded individuals in Orlando, Florida. That's what this game means to people. And there's a 14-year-old kid with a 41-year-old dad, or 43, and that kid's never seen Tennessee beat Alabama.
I made my layover in Orlando, Florida. It was initially a 6-hour layover, which is not a short layover. I turned it into a 14-hour layover so that I could watch this entire game. So I did not anticipate this game, the conversation around this game being what it is. I just had to make adjustments.
Well, that's what you do. Let's go Vols deep next, who checks in from Nashville on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. What's going on, Vols, or Mr. Deep?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy, Vols Deep, the VFL, hanging out with the crew in the 3HL.
Just keep hanging out with all of it. Thank you.
I wanted to chime in about one of my absolute favorite Bama memories versus favorite Tennessee Bama memories. I have to clarify that I am in no way a Tide fan, but it was actually in the early times when I was really starting to get into football. My very first Tennessee rivalry game that's like, okay, I might start to like football was 0-1 when we beat Florida. You know the win I'm talking about. But the one that really just got me hyped when it came to Tennessee rivalries was 0-3. We're down in Tuscaloosa, and it was the 5 overtime game where we beat Bama, where we had Casey Clausen and Casey Clausen as our quarterback, and Brody Croyle, if you remember that name,
sure,
was the quarterback for Bama. It was a long game, but it was definitely a win that was well worth it. That officially solidified me bleeding orange. Take care. Go Vols. Beat Bama.
Man. Vols
classic.
Deep.
They don't call him Vol Shallow.
They do not. They do not. I almost used his initials, but I thought, well, I can't call him VD on the radio. Vols Deep, so that's why I said Vols or Mr. Deep. All right. I've said this multiple times on this show. I got to rabbit holing down YouTube videos last night. I watched a bunch of stuff. I heard a bunch of John Ward audio, and I found a little tidbit from 1982. I'll set it up when we come back. Kind of a similar scenario of what Vol fans have been used to. I'll tell you what. Go away. It's a quick break. Come back. When you come back, we will let the great John Ward set the stage. We will also call our shot. This is your last chance. Well, with us anyway, certainly 3HL will be taking your calls and doing that. Last chance with our crew to call your shot. Who wins, Tennessee or Alabama? Zone TV chat is open, by the way. Hello to Ayla, who has posted a bunch of stuff in there. You want to post a score, a prediction. You want to hit us on Twitter at Blaine and Mickey. You want to call 615-737-1045. But when we come back, the man sets the stage. So everything costs more, right? Literally everything costs more right now. That's a world that we live in. Now think about your home and all the stuff that you like about your home. Maybe you got a beautiful wooden privacy fence. Maybe you got a deck on the back of your house. Maybe you got your concrete or aggregate driveway or sidewalk. You got all these outdoor services. All these surfaces get destroyed by the Tennessee weather. So what do? You get your buddy's power washer and you power wash it, then you put some little coat of something, then you do it all again next year. Why not protect all this stuff so you don't have to replace it, so you don't have to fix it, so it'll last forever? That's where EverSeal comes in. It literally has ever in the name. EverSeal is a permanent sealing solution for all outdoor services, driveways, sidewalks, fences, boat docks, right? Your deck, your patio, any of that. Stops wood from rotting and concrete from cracking, all those things. Let EverSeal come and seal and protect all those outdoor services. 25-year manufacturer-backed warranty for the very best. Call them now. Get an estimate. 1-844-EVER-USA or hit them up online at ever-seal.com. That's EverSeal.
It is a gorgeous October afternoon at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. Over 95,000 fans are on hand, enjoying one of football's great college rivalries. The University of Alabama ranked second in the nation, the University of Tennessee. The pride of the Southland Band forming the giant T, stretching from the corridor on the east side of the football field to the west side. And now, with orange balloons soaring into the sky, it's football time in Tennessee. And you get a chance to experience the thrill of racing onto the field through the giant T. Now, looking into the sky where the orange balloons go soaring up. Tennessee and Alabama.
Man, if that doesn't get you going, like I said, I couldn't sleep last night. I stayed up till after midnight watching videos. Here's the interesting thing about that. Now, some of you people are amazing. You know, you can hear what John Ward said and you go, oh, that was the 76?
Yeah.
Some of y'all are the most amazing recall people. And we'll call our shot in just a minute. That was video from 1982 Vols versus Bama. I don't know who owns the video. I found it on YouTube. If it's yours, I'm not trying to not credit anybody. I just wanted to run it. So we'll say it. It's University of Tennessee because that's who he worked for. We'll credit them for that. Johnny Majors Vols ended an 11-year losing streak to Alabama with a 35-28 win over the Crimson Tide in 1982. Bear Bryant's last game against Tennessee to start a 4-year winning streak in the series for Tennessee. They lost 11 in a row. They played this game. At one point, John Ward was saying just how successful Alabama had been like in the previous. I think they lost I want to say that he said they lost 4 conference games in 11 years. Something ridiculous like that. Similar stretch to what we've seen from them, during all of Nick Saban's time there. This has been a streaky season. Nothing like what we've seen in the last 15 years.
Yeah, a streaky series, you mean.
A streaky series, yes. So as we transition into this, I'll tell you, call your shot. Brought to you by Chattanooga Whiskey 91, an award-winning small batch bourbon, and the only Tennessee high malt featuring tasting notes of toasted honey and graham cracker. It's a real winner, available at your local retail store. Maybe you will enjoy some responsibly this weekend while you consume this Tennessee-Alabama game, or afterwards if you choose to celebrate one way or the other. Jay Smith says, Tennessee done their homework on Bama, so they ready. Lonzo says, Bama by 10 is my call. Lonzo has a Mississippi State avatar and has been talking smack for Bama all throughout today's show.
They got a big
Lonzo,
game.
You rascal.
They got a big game at Kentucky.
Hey, man, Mississippi State, if you ask me who I've been most surprised by, Lonzo. Your crew this year?
Yeah, and it's funny because if Mississippi State had 80% of their production on both sides of the ball returning. 80%. Will Rogers threw for over 5,000 yards. It's crazy what Mike Leach has done with the air raid, that a quarterback can throw for over 5,000 yards, and people will scoff at it. It's like, well, it's the air raid. Of course he did. Mississippi State's a good football team, and the Egg Bowl might decide who the second best team in the SEC West is.
Now, how nutty is that? And the Egg Bowl's crazy. If they both won one game, no games, if they were both 0-11 and played in the Egg Bowl, I would watch it, and I would enjoy every last second of it.
Hey, Ole Miss is undefeated. Ole Miss has Auburn, struggling Auburn this week. Then they're at LSU. Then they got A&M. Ole Miss could just keep winning. They're 6-0. Well, I think they're 7-0 after this week, and they got Alabama in 3 weeks.
Think Lane Kiffin knows a little bit about Saban, what he wants to do?
Get your popcorn ready.
Oh, my gosh. That'll be fantastic. I mean, college football. Are you kidding me? And then now you got this, all you Tennessee and Alabama people. So for Alabama, I wondered this all week. And somebody will tweet me or tell me, or, you got a couple more minutes here. I wonder if Alabama fans just feel like, well, we never don't beat Tennessee. We just beat Tennessee. Like, it doesn't matter. Hendon Hooker, Josh Dobbs, we don't care. It doesn't matter who the quarterback, doesn't matter. Or do they feel a little nervous? We have Mark Heim on this week, who is in Alabama. He works for AL.com, which is like the conglomerate of newspapers that cover the schools in Alabama and their web presence. And he said, this year feels different because he said, it feels like to me, and I'm paraphrasing Lucas, but you heard him say it. He essentially said, it feels like everybody connected with Tennessee feels like they can and will win this game.
Yeah.
And he said, I haven't always felt that, but he said that's kind of how he was feeling now. That's a guy who's literally in the heart of Alabama country. I know I was thinking about this today and I was writing down my notes. there would have to be more Tennessee Vol fans than any other college fan base that listen to this radio station. But I bet Alabama's second. I mean, we're just north of Alabama. Our signal's super strong. It basically will get all the way almost down into Alabama, if not a little bit down there. We could ask Joe Hunk. He's commuting back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, yeah. I mean, he makes that drive every dang day.
Right from the state line.
Every single morning when I get in my car, first thing I hear is Will, Ramon, and Kayla at my house.
Okay. So we literally have a signal that goes into Alabama.
Yep.
Now, I've told the story about making the Kroger tour with Derrick Henry 3 years ago and talking to all these people in Tide gear, and they're like, no, I'm from Murfreesboro, you know. Well, I mean, if you've decided to jump on a college bandwagon in the last 15 years, that crimson-colored bandwagon has not been a terrible ride for you to be on. But whatever has led us here, I wonder how confident Tennessee fans are. Not just like, I hope, but I believe. And I wonder how Alabama fans, how many are legit worried about this? Because Tennessee has a good enough team to win. Alabama's quarterback, who is a fantastic football player, is beat up. Tennessee lost their number one NFL prospect, Cedric Tillman. And as you've pointed out multiple times today and all throughout the week, they're still scoring like crazy. They're still throwing the ball all around the yard. They have picked up the slack for him. There's an NFL player. That doesn't happen. Brew McCoy, are you kidding me? The season, I mean, what a fantastic find for this team. But other guys, Ramel Keaton, guys are stepping up. So they've shown we can rise above that. They've done it. 1% chance per Jimmy Himes that we see Tillman. I will ask you, Lucas Panzica, got about a minute left. Time to call your shot, amigo.
I've gone so back and forth on this all week. I have had such an inner struggle with this. If Tennessee is on the field rather than Texas A&M last week in Tuscaloosa, Tennessee wins that game, and they might do so by 2 to 3 scores with how Alabama turned over the football, Jalen Milroe with 3 turnovers. If Bryce Young is 100% going into this game, Alabama is my pick, 1,000%. If it's a good game, but Alabama wins. I don't see how Bryce Young can be 100% going into this game. So it's really hard for me to make this pick not knowing the status of Bryce Young. So I'm going to pick Tennessee. I'm going to pick Tennessee because if Bryce Young is hovering around 60, 70%, I think Tennessee can do enough to make his life difficult for 4 quarters. They're going to get gashed in the secondary. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to give up some chunk plays. I just think Tennessee can outscore them. That's where we're at. Tennessee can give up 30 and win this game. They could give up 35 and potentially win this game. I think I'm going to go with Tennessee.
That's the difference between the Pruitt years, the Butch years, a lot of other years is exactly what you said. Alabama scores a lot. Tennessee can score a lot. It's at home. They have everything in their favor. They're sleeping in their own beds. I will also, calling my shot, I will take the Tennessee Vols. You got a score?
I'm going to say 40-38.
38-35 for me.
Robert?
Sounding like my dad. Robert! I'm going to go with Tennessee, too. Tyler Ivins was on with Lucas. He said that Heupel has never won a non-30-point game. 28-27, it's the first one.
Whoa! All right, we got to go. 3HL coming up next. They are on location at
Scoreboard Bar and Grill.
Oh, my gosh, the best. We'll
Neyland Stadium is going to be rocking tomorrow.
Yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy. And check out high school football tonight. It's week 9. You're running out of time. Have a great weekend, everybody. In the meantime.
In between time. Peace.